Alright, we are here for the first round, and our opponent wins the roll, is on the play, and we have to decide whether or not we want to keep this hand. It's very borderline. I'm probably going to keep it because I don't like the mulligan hands that are like solid like this, but this hand isn't particularly great, so we could easily get run over with this, but we're going to try it. It's just very slow because all our lands come to play tapped. But hopefully it works out for us. Alright, Woodland Cemetery, so he's probably playing Jund, is the guess. So he drew Geist of St. Traft. We're just going to get a forest with this Evolving Wilds. That lets us cast Abundant Growth. He plays another Woodland. Alright. And Invisible Stalker. We're just going to Abundant Growth this. Instead of doing Abundant Growth in the land we would otherwise draw, I'm going to do it on this land so that we can cast Geist of St. Traft, possibly. If we draw like an untapped land, we can cast Geist. And I'm going to get an island because... Okay, so he's playing Angel of Glory's Rise, Reanimator. Which is a lot different than the Jund deck. He's going to try to dump like a bunch of humans in his graveyard and then cast Angel of Glory's Rise to get them all back. So hopefully... Alright, so we did not draw a land, unfortunately. So we're just stuck playing Invisible Stalker. And then hopefully we draw one next turn so we can cast Geist. Like if we can draw like back-to-back lands, we can cast like Geist and then Increasing Savagery, and that gives us a decent shot of winning. But we're not doing too well in the drawing lands department. So this draw hasn't worked out too well for us, but it really isn't like the fact of the draw. It's just the fact that we've not drawn lands, which you can't really control that. I mean, that's something that can happen in any deck with any opening hand. So, okay, so he's playing Giselle in his deck, which is something that could be a problem for us. We do have Silent Departure to bounce it a couple times, but that only works, that only goes so far. Alright, so we drew a land. Now we have the option of playing Geist of St. Traft, or just casting Increasing Savagery on our Invisible Stalker. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to cast Savagery on our Stalker, because this deck plays Blasphemous Act. If we cast Geist, we give him like a window to cast Blasphemous Act next turn. And we don't really want to do that. So we would rather just Savagery the Stalker. And that puts him on a pretty short clock as well. He's dead in 2 turns, assuming we can hit with anything else. So if he unburial rights Gisela here, which is what he does, what we can do is we're just going to Silent Departure it. And if we draw a land either this turn or next turn, okay, we drew a land. That's really good for us. So we're going to Silent Departure Gisela, and then we're going to play Strangroot Geist and just get in for some damage here. And now he is basically dead. If he doesn't have Blasphemous Act, he's dead. And if he does have Blasphemous Act, he's still dead to the Strangroot Geist. So he's going to need to gain some life if he wants to not die here. This Silent Departure was an awesome just card here for like wasting his unburial rights on Gisela. So So he's flashing back Faithless Looting, which is a good sign. It means he probably doesn't have anything. And if he plays something like a Cathedral Sanctifier that gains 3 life, that puts him like out of range of dying to this. We can always just cast like Silverheart and Bond with the Stalker. Alright, so he discards Unburial Rites Giselle. He's probably going to just bring Gisela back again. If he does that, he's just dead. Yeah, so he brings Gisela back, and all we have to do is just flashback Silent Departure on it. Silent Departure is awesome against cards like Gisela. Alright. Despite a really bad start, we have won game 1. So now we're looking to board for game 2. So Grafdigger's Cage automatically comes in. That card's great against his deck. It's trying to reanimate things, and he has like Faithless Looting and cards with flashback. So it shuts off his Faithless Lootings, and it keeps him from, like, Angel of Glory's Rise returns all humans to play when it comes into play, but Grafdigger's Cage just makes it a 4/6 flyer for 7. We're also going to bring in Dissipate, just to, if we don't draw like a Grafdigger's Cage, we want to counter an Unburial Rites or an Angel of Glory's Rise. So we're bringing these 5 cards in. And now, as for what to cut, normally I cut Silent Departure against his deck because his deck has a lot of cards like Fiend Hunter, Cathedral Sanctifier, Borderland Ranger, Huntmaster. Basically, all the cards in his deck get value when they come into play, so bouncing them is not as good because they get to just replay them and get value again. But since he has Gisela, I want to leave like 1 Silent Departure in. And it's certainly possible that he sides Gisela out against us because of Silent Departure. So, we may actually, I'm actually just going to side all of them out. We have Dissipate, worst case, so, and he's probably siding out his Gisela because of how bad it was for him that game. So then we have to cut 2 more cards, and I normally cut like 1 Silverheart and 1 Strangleroot Geist. And the reason is that, like, he has Blasphemous Act, so cards like Silverheart aren't as good because you'll play it and then he'll Blasphemous Act. And Strangleroot Geist, like, he has a lot of dumb little early drop humans that kind of invalidate this card a lot. So, we're kind of leaning on Invisible Stalker and Geist to do most of the damage. So this is what we're going to play. And this is a very good matchup for the Geist deck, so hopefully we can win this one, but I don't think I've ever actually lost this matchup while playing the Geist deck. It's just very difficult for them to win. So we're keeping this hand. We have turn 2 Invisible Stalker, turn 3 Spectral Flight, or turn 2 Invisible Stalker, turn 3 Geist if we draw a land. This hand is actually exceptional. So we're definitely keeping this one. And we drew an Avacyn's Pilgrim. Wow, that makes our hand even better, because now we can cast turn 2 Geist to Saint Draft, and then on turn 3 we can Spectral Flight it. I like to keep his graveyard here just so I see what he's doing. Like, he has an Unburial Rites in his yard. So we still haven't drawn a land yet, so we're choosing Spirit with Cavern. And since Avacyn's Pilgrim taps for white, we can cast Geist on turn 2. It's very, very convenient. Borderland Ranger. So the key here is Blasphemous Act. We want to avoid getting Blasphemous Acted, so we don't really want to add more creatures to the board. We just want to stick with the ones that we have, and we're not, unfortunately, not drawing any land here. But we want to make sure that we want to keep him off of Blasphemous Acting as early as possible. So now that there's a ton of creatures in play, he can cast Blasphemous Act next turn. So we have the option here of casting Increasing Savagery on our Geist. That would make it do 13 damage and put him at 1 life. That's what we're going to do. That way, if he does cast Blasphemous Act next turn, we can just kill him with Strangleroot Geist. So I think he's basically drawing dead here, but I never count this deck out. You never know what it can pull off. So. Yep, so there's Blasphemous Act. Now if he has Cathedral Sanctifier, which he does, he's actually not dead yet, unfortunately. So that was a very fortunate draw for him. See, like you just can never count this deck out. I still like our chances of winning this game, but it's certainly not nearly as good as it was before. Alright, well we drew a Spectral Flight. So we have 2 options here. We actually have 3 options. We can cast Invisible Stalker. We can play this other Strangleroot Geist and attack with both of our creatures. Or we can just Spectral Flight this Strangleroot Geist and take him down to 1 life. If we Spectral Flight this Geist, that's a lot more all-in. Like, if he can reanimate this Fiend Hunter, then he's probably going to beat us. So, that's a little riskier, but I think at this point, like, we're not winning by, wasting time, so we're just going to go for it. And if he deals with it, then, so be it. I don't like this play as much because it's so slow. With like Huntmaster and Cathedral Sanctifier, he gains so much life. Yeah, so he's Unburial Righting the Fiend Hunter here. So we do, leave him at 1 life, basically. Now, hopefully he attacks us with both of these, or even just one of these. I think we're actually going to win this game. Oh, wait, we don't. Never mind. Sorry. The card that I thought we had is not the card we have, so. Yeah, we just played Geist here. And I thought we had a Silent Departure in hand, but I forgot we actually boarded those out. If we had Silent Departure, we could have departed this, got our Strangleroot Geist back, then played the other one and killed him. But he probably has Angel of Glory's Rise in his hand, and he'll reanimate it this turn, which is bad news for us. We really need to draw a land so we can get Dungeon Geist online. And see what he does here. Yeah, there's no way we can possibly block here. And yep, here's the Angel. So we've basically probably lost at this point because he's gaining a total of, I guess, 5 life. So So he managed to have the exact perfect cards he needed to beat our very nutty draw against him. Yep, we are dead. Alright, so we'll try it again. Yeah, he had to have the Huntmaster to turn on Blasphemous Act the following turn, and then he had to have Sanctifier to not die. It's fairly fortunate of him, but it's fine. I think I'm going to side out another Silverheart and bring back in the Strangleroot Geist. It's just... Silverheart's just kind of slow against this deck, and like with Dissipates, it's hard to tap out for it. So we're gonna try this, and hopefully we'll draw one of these this game. That'll really set him behind. It might be right to bring some of these back in, but we didn't see Gisela that game, and I don't really like it against the rest of his deck very well. You know, just Sanctifiers or Huntmasters, it's just really bad to Silent Departure those. Garrick's very slow against this deck, and like since he has no burial rights, it doesn't matter if his guys come back into play, or it doesn't matter if his guys die because they're all coming back. So I don't like Garrick much against him. And Wolfir Adventure is the same thing. Like just random ground pounders are not good against this deck. You want evasion. That's why like Geist and Stalker are so good, because they provide evasion. And Dungeon Geist is good against his deck for the same reason. Alright, so we have Grafdigger's Cage ×2, but our hand, I don't think we can keep this one-lander here. Even though it has the cage, his deck's capable of just beating you down like old school fashion without like relying on burial rights. And if we had like another land, then this hand would be insane, but since we don't, I think we have to mulligan. We can't mulligan this. This one's not great though, but I think it's better than the hand we just had. So we'll get the option of either leading with Stalker or Strangleroot Geist on next turn. I think it might depend on what we draw a little bit. Just hopefully a land is what we're hoping. Okay, we drew a land. I think we're going to lead with Invisible Stalker. That actually is probably, now that I just played it, I think that might be a mistake. Although he plays Sanctifier, so... So next turn we can play Dungeon Geists, and then we're kind of just at the mercy of what we draw. Interesting that he doesn't block. And he doesn't crack this, which means he's having mana issues. Yeah, he is missing land drops, which is good news for us. We are only drawing Forest, though, which is bad news. So, but yeah, we're just gonna get Dungeon Geists out here. And tap this guy down. Opponent says he thinks this is it, but I mean, he has plenty of time to draw it. He's still at 23 life. We're not really presenting a particularly quick clock on him here, so. Hopefully we can draw a blue source. Like an abundant growth would be like a perfect draw that lets this whole dissipate up. This Pillar of Flame. That's a lot better than like a Faithless Looting or another land. I'd much rather see that. I'd much rather see him still stuck on 2. Another Invisible Stalker, 5. So he's on a 5-turn clock here, or he's on a 4-turn clock. If we play this other Invisible Stalker, we shorten it maybe to a 3-turn clock, but we also kind of turn on, like, we make a Blasphemous Act easier to cast. Like, it only costs 4 mana now. So he drew a land, and he can maybe cast Blasphemous Act next turn. So hopefully we draw a blue source for Dissipate. Avacyn's Pilgrim. Not a good draw. So I don't want to add the Pilgrim to the board and make Blasphemous Act easier to cast for him. So he drew a land, so if he has Blasphemous Act, he's just going to cast it. And we're kind of in trouble at this point. Yep. Yeah, we're in a lot of trouble here since we didn't draw the blue source for Dissipate. We can Savagery this now, but if he has Fiend Hunter, that just turns it on. So I'd rather wait. Huntmaster. Well, we drew the blue source. Fortunately, pretty late. Hopefully he doesn't have Fiend Hunter. No, he does. You know, it's possible we don't attack there and we just hold open for Dissipate on this Fiend Hunter. A little frustrating that we didn't draw a blue source for so long. That really cost us the game. If we had been able to counter the Blasphemous Act, I'm pretty sure we would have won. At this point, it seems unlikely that we win. It's one reason why I think Invisible Stalker is the worst card in the deck. It's just so... the clock is so slow if you don't draw a pump spell. Like, we drew this too late. And... Alright, we need to draw a Geist of St. Traft, and maybe we have a chance. Even though it seems unlikely because he has Vault of the Archangel. He can gain a lot of life. We need to dissipate this, unfortunately. Much less good than it could have been. One thing about this deck is it's kind of inconsistent. Like, we had particularly bad draws this game, but actually we had bad draws both. We actually had a very good draw game too, but we just bricked on hitting a land for a long time, and kept us from getting those final points of damage in. And then we just had a very bad draw this game. Like, it's a little inconsistent because you're playing cards like this, and sometimes you don't have creatures to put them on. Or, like, we had all these creatures early in the game and just never drew the stuff to go with it. But anyway, we'll be back for round 2.